Good day, everyone, and welcome to our new lecture here on SS031. This is Understanding the Self, and this is our new lecture, The Digital Self, the Virtual You, the Self in the Cyber. You see, we live in a highly mediated times. Expressions of identity nowadays involve layers of make-believe selves. This is what Kenneth Jurgen terms as multiphrenia, or the idea that countless alternatives to self-expression identity formation. You see, people nowadays are more interconnected than at any point in our history. You see, there's also that concept of finding love even in the social media. In this day and age, nothing beats falling in love with the boring bits cut out. Virtual romance speeds through moments and cuts to the chase. Also, we got the example of digital meet cute. You see, before, it's very seldom that people actually find love on the internet. However, because of our very fast-paced world, we will realize that a lot more people are now finding love in social media and in different social media platforms. You see, we also have the concept of catfishing, which is the act of luring someone into a largely virtual relationship with the use of online alter egos. This is something that we really have to be careful about because there are a lot of social media accounts and people who are doing catfishing at the moment just to lure others into a large virtual relationship. According to Robert Brault, if I choose abstraction over reality, it is because I find it the lesser chaos. And so we here now bring in the concept of reality as an abstraction. Now, given the pervasiveness of numerous reality simulations, abstraction is fast becoming a staple of modern human experience. By abstraction, we mean the non-physical properties one gets to try and interact with when consuming technology. According to Kimberly Rosenfeld, varying manifestations of abstraction can be mapped in a continuum where we can see real-life reality, simulation, augmented reality, the virtual space, and we have the virtual reality, hyper reality. We see hyper life reality as the reality with which you engage most frequently. This pertains to a life away from digital devices. And also we look at the concept of reality as an abstraction. We know that simulation and its basic purpose is to copy reality as closely as it can. It offers uncanny representations of real-world aspects, and it can also be used for instruction. We also have the concept of augmented reality. This is a real-life reality spliced with the unreal, and this permits you to creatively interact with both the tangible and digital world all at the same time. And then we have virtual reality. This is a type of abstraction completely detached from real-life reality. Here, you are granted freedom to explore open worlds using a custom-made character. And then we have hyper reality. The more than anything, this abstraction is a state of mind, the inability to distinguish the real from the otherwise. This is a utopia of the mind, where people exist as the best version of themselves. According to Irving Goffman, we have to choose our self-presentations carefully. For what starts out as a mask may become your face. At least that is according to Irving Goffman. And now we will discuss the cyber self. You see, identity is in many ways interrelated with performativity. It's as if we are performing online. Technology, for all of its faults, provides new venues for forging identities and personhood. In short, our lives online around performance. And participating online is equivalent to performing to a crowd. The Presentation of Self in Everyday Life by Irving Goffman. This is a landmark book which analogizes the nuances of self-interaction with those of the theater. The book tells of socialization as heavily role-oriented, with individuals being portrayed or being assigned specific And here we see William Shakespeare saying all the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts. Now we have here the concept of the dramaturgy of the self, at least according to Irving Goffman. Here, social interaction as in theatrical performances has the front stage, the backstage, and offstage regions. For the front stage, this is where performers' consciousness of an audience's expectations impacts his or her performance. At the backstage, this is where the performer can relax and be himself or herself. Offstage, this is when the performer gets to meet the members of the audience completely separate from his or her performance. Irving Goffman also added that people, when engaged in social interactions, internalize what he calls as impression management. Now, impression management is a process wherein each attempts to manufacture and present oneself positively for us and for embarrassment. There are different elements of the dramaturgical self. The first one is what we call as performance. According to Irving Goffman, this refers to the set of activities in which the self participates in front of others. This is labeled as the audience. Now, through performing, people are able to express meaning about themselves and their present situations. The next one is the setting. This centers on the scenery where an interaction will take place. This is where the actor needs always to consider altering his or her performance to fit the of the setting. The next one is the appearance. This is the function, okay? And the function of the appearance rests mainly on its ability to portray the self's various statuses. On social media, display pictures, often called as selfies, and cover photos embody element. Next, we have the manner. And this pertains to how an actor sends various signals to the audience to ultimately inform them in advance of the role he or she seeks or is about to perform. People's manner should merely function closely with their self-presentation, lest they may be misread. Now, failure to do so can lead to audience confusion. Some applies on social media when you are known for posting about your thoughts on a regular basis only to stop doing so all of a sudden one day. And the last element is the front stage, where this works as a kind of social script that actors follow for a more guided performance. This defines a particular encounter or interaction for an audience. One example is the thumbs up emoticon. Though still generally used online to signal approval, it is also nowadays associated with passive aggressiveness. The audience, in most cases, knows of this signification, so it does telegraph their possible reactions to a specific gesture. The front, in short, defines a particular encounter or interaction for the audience. Jason Cranford Teague said that anonymity in the virtual landscape is much more different than in life. Now, anonymity is the act of communicating wherein the sender does not openly reveal his or her identity. Say the question and answer websites Ask FM and FormSpring, now known as Spring.me under new management, offer users optional anonymity when they publish questions. One issue here is the absence of user accountability when he or she posts or asks about something demeaning or disparaging. We also have the concept of pseudonymity, which combines both the benefits of anonymity and the joys of assuming some semblance of identity. Unlike in anonymity, where one remains by and large unknown and faceless, pseudonymity affords a user with a self, albeit a stylized or fashioned one. And then we look at the concept of the disinhibited self. Now, in the face of interactions, we often hold back on things that we really want to say or do for fear of leaving a negative impression. When we talk about the online disinhibition effect, this is the removal of social inhibitions and or restrictions imposed upon people's behaviors when engaging in the. Now, what are the causes of online disinhibition? We have dissociative anonymity, invisibility, asynchronicity, solipsistic interjection, dissociative imagination, and minimization of status and authority. With regards to dissociative anonymity, this is the confidence you feel every time your anonymity engages in online activities. While when we speak of invisibility, you can sometimes unintentionally misrepresent yourself to come across as an entirely different person. Unlike in real conversations, invisibility enables you to alter your virtual avatar's personality and even appearance sometimes to lure attractive people into taking notice of you or just to generally avoid scrutiny when you participate online. Another cause is what we call asynchronicity. This is very important. This is a very important element in face-to-face communication. This is why meetings at work are scheduled based on the availability of its attendees. And then you have solipsistic interjection. We essentially communicate online through typewritten words. Verbal cues, though ever present, are not the accepted norm in interacting virtually. In this regard, you unconsciously recite in your head both the messages you send and those deployed your way. This is why acquaintances are sometimes very talkative to each other virtually, but do not actually speak, let alone interact much in real life. And then we have dissociative imagination. Simply put, this is the faulty belief that online interaction is a game, and whose rules you can easily break with no perceived implication. And lastly, we have the minimization of status and authority. Have you ever stumbled upon your professor's Facebook profiles and it suddenly occurred on you how powerless he or she seems to look? If yes, then this is because the internet, more than just providing users a disinhibited space, levels the playing field with no one personality having unanimous clout over others. Now, people often engage in performance when encountering different abstractions online, sometimes to the detriment of their identity. Now, as a remedy, they use anonymity and pseudonymity. This hiding away of one's true identity in effect allows users to become more open in freely expressing their thoughts in the virtual space, which John Siller calls online disinhibition. And that wraps up our discussion on the digital self, the virtual you, the self in the cyberspace.